Insulin-friendly eating has exploded into one of the most aggressively promoted wellness trends online, with influencers claiming that the right combination of protein, fiber, and fats before or alongside carbs can magically flatten glucose curves, reset hormones, or even prevent insulin resistance entirely. The promise sounds empowering. Instead of cutting carbs or following extreme diets, you simply manipulate your meals in a way that keeps blood sugar steady. On TikTok and Instagram, this trend is marketed as both effortless and scientifically airtight. But behind the aesthetic charts and confident claims lies a messy mixture of half-understood physiology, oversimplified hacks, and a growing risk of unnecessary fear around completely normal glucose responses. The core idea is that combining macronutrients, especially protein, fiber, and healthy fat, slows carbohydrate absorption and reduces the speed and height of blood sugar spikes. This is true in a basic metabolic sense. Adding vegetables before a meal, pairing carbs with protein, or avoiding sugary foods on an empty stomach all have modest, measurable effects. But what influencers rarely mention is that these glycemic differences are often small, vary enormously from person to person, and don't automatically translate to improvements in long-term health. A normal glucose rise after eating is not harmful, yet social media often frames any increase as a crisis, feeding unnecessary anxiety around eating and making people believe they need to micromanage every meal to protect themselves from future metabolic disease. One of the most misleading aspects of insulin-friendly eating is the widespread misunderstanding of insulin resistance itself. Many creators imply that single spikes cause insulin resistance, or that perfectly flat glucose lines are the gold standard of metabolic health. In reality, insulin resistance is a complex, long-term condition linked to genetics, muscle mass, visceral fat, activity levels, sleep quality, and chronic inflammation, not a few slices of bread eaten without protein. Social media collapses all of this nuance into a simplistic equation. Spikes are bad, stability is good. This makes blood sugar management sound easy and controllable, but it also breeds guilt and hypervigilance, especially in younger audiences who internalize the idea that every normal meal is a metabolic threat. Another danger is the normalization of self-surveillance. Many people jumping into insulin-friendly eating pair the trend with continuous glucose monitors, despite not having diabetes or any medical reason to track their blood sugar. These devices generate an endless stream of data that users often misinterpret. A harmless glucose rise can look dramatic on a graph, convincing someone they're unhealthy when they are perfectly normal. This fosters panic, obsessive meal modifications, or even orthorexic tendencies where every food choice becomes a test of discipline rather than nourishment. And because glycemic responses depend on sleep, stress, hormones, and exercise, even the same meal can look completely different on different days, creating confusion instead of clarity. Even the recommended strategies can backfire. For people with a history of restrictive eating or anxiety around food, the rigid rules about eating veggies first, avoiding carbs alone, or structuring every meal around prevention can turn eating into a chore filled with fear-based decision-making. Meanwhile, others may overemphasize fats to blunt blood sugar rises, not realizing that frequent high-fat meals, especially those heavy in saturated fat, can worsen insulin sensitivity over time. The trend also encourages people to believe that as long as glucose looks stable, a diet is healthy, even if it's low in nutrients, high in calories, or imbalanced in other ways. A flat glucose graph can mask poor dietary patterns, giving a false sense of metabolic security. There are other overlooked risks. People diagnosed with insulin resistance may over-rely on these hacks instead of seeking medical evaluation or building long-term habits like improving sleep, increasing muscle mass, reducing visceral fat, or managing stress, all of which have far more significant and lasting impacts on insulin sensitivity. Meanwhile, those without insulin issues may start fearing carbs unnecessarily, gradually drifting toward restrictive eating despite having no metabolic dysfunction in the first place. And because influencers often present insulin-friendly strategies as universally beneficial, individuals with low blood sugar tendencies, hormonal fluctuations, or high energy needs may find themselves fatigued, irritable, or underfueled. Insulin-friendly eating does have legitimate science behind it, but the way it's presented online strips away context and subtly encourages obsession, perfectionism, and a belief that normal physiology is a problem that must be constantly managed. The truth is less glamorous. Insulin health comes from sustainable patterns, balanced meals, regular activity, sufficient sleep, stress regulation, and maintaining muscle, not from hacking each bite of food. When the trend is treated as a lifestyle tool instead of a rigid rulebook, it can support health. But when it turns into a fear-driven strategy to prevent any spike whatsoever, it becomes another performative wellness ritual that confuses people, increases food anxiety, and distracts from the deeper habits that truly shape long-term metabolic resilience.